Hi, this is Connie, the Prairie Mom. I wanted to take just a few minutes while I'm sitting here with my afternoon cup of coffee and just take a break. Do you ever need a day like that? Or a minute like that? I've been sitting here at this computer for 3 days trying to finish editing the day 9 video. That is the video of baking the bread. And I think I had 2 different cameras going and about 6 to 8 hours of total footage to wade through to try to get that down to 20 or 30 minutes of something that actually makes sense. And it has been such a challenge. To top it all off, we don't have great internet service here on the prairie. And so I've had to go someplace else and get a new app to transfer files and try to make it all work. I've maxed out the memory on my iPad completely, but I'm learning a lot and I am going to get day 9 finished. But while we're waiting on day 9, I'm going to go ahead and finish day 10 and wrap this up so that you'll have the information you need to take that sourdough starter that you've worked so hard for and you can run with it. So that's where I want to go today, is just talking about some of the things. I wrote down a few notes, so if I look down, that's what I'm doing. I don't want to forget something as we wrap up today. I have one of the things is I do have a sandwich bread recipe that I will have up on the website. It's almost actually ready now. Technical difficulties on that as well, but we're gonna get there. It's a sandwich bread though, super easy, 1 rise, and that is the recipe that I work with for alternative grains. That is the recipe that I sold literally hundreds of loaves at farmers markets, all in this area, and it's simple and it's easy, but it works great for grains like spelt, einkorn, emmer, even kamut in proportions to wheat. So that is a recipe that's incredibly versatile. You can do 100% whole grains. You can do it proportions of whole grains. It just is such a quick and easy recipe, and the only rise is in your loaf pan before it goes in the oven. So it's not all that different from the artisan recipe, except that it has the addition of oil. And there's no yeast in this one. You can use a teaspoon if you think your starter's a little bit sluggish, but there's no yeast in this. And there is some oil, and you'll be amazed at the difference in texture from the addition of the oil. It keeps the crust a little bit softer so that it's very sliceable. The crumb holds together really well, so you can get a super thin slice for a great sandwich bread, a great grilled cheese. It's delicious toast with breakfast. It's just a workhorse of a bread that you can use in your kitchen every day. So I really recommend you try this recipe, and I will have that up on the website with the link in the little description box. Okay, so the sandwich bread was one thing. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is all of the beautiful breads and treats that you have made over the past 10 days. And when this has been so hard for me to keep my family going, to keep my kitchen going, to keep the videos coming, to keep all of this happening, and I would be tired and frustrated with the technology that I didn't understand, your pictures, your comments on Instagram and Facebook, your little messages in my inbox or text messages, wow, they have truly made my day. And I felt like all of this was worthwhile because it was making a difference for you. You were having fun. You were creating some delicious goodness for your family. You've learned a new skill that can honestly feed your family for years to come. And you may decide right now that when this quarantine pandemic thing passes by the wayside, you may decide that you don't have time for sourdough, but you've got the skills now. So someday down the road, you can pick this back up. You know how to make a starter, you know how to make bread, and you've got a skill that will last you a lifetime. So for that, I'm really happy. Let's look at just a few of the things that y'all have created. Your starters have gone from flour and water to amazing bubbly companions that will bless your home for years to come. You have used them to make biscuits of all shapes and varieties. And thanks to my sister Suzanne, the breakfast cookies are a hit. I have also learned from one of you that granola is a great substitute for the Cheerios. Crumpets were a cultural adventure, but several of you were willing to take that trip. And your soda breads were amazing, from whole grains to light breads and even a loaf of einkorn. This recipe was super popular. You also made coffee cakes and sweetbreads, and some really great first artisan loaves. Some commented that their loaves weren't beautiful, but they loved the taste. Beautiful loaves are not required, but if that is your goal, just keep practicing. I'll get that video up to help you. Your creativity amazed me. One friend even used fermented grape juice to start his bread cultures, and isn't his bread amazing? From the very beginning, you have made this your own, adding blueberries to pancakes, sweet potatoes and eggs to soda bread toast, and chicken strips with maple syrup to classic waffles. You are using all that you have cultured and learned to gift baked goods to friends and to share your cultures via porch pickup so that this infant tradition can grow and bless others. I am so very proud of you. Isn't that amazing? I love seeing your breads. I love seeing your baked goods, your cookies. Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for being patient with me on this journey, for enjoying your sourdough adventure. And you may be wondering, okay, what do I do now? I want to share that with you. There's a little bit of different thought on maintaining sourdough, especially a new one. I really like to keep it going for a good month before I move it to the refrigerator. So, but that's not to say you can't move it sooner if you need a break or if you need to be gone for a day or two. But you really need to get those cultures developed well at the beginning. So hang on to that. Keep it going as long as you can at the beginning. But that doesn't mean it has to be in the same very intense fashion that we have done these first 10 days. It can be very different. So it can be, if you know you're going to be having a really busy week, you can cut back on the amount of sourdough that you're keeping down to even 2 tablespoons. So you can keep it down just to a very small amount, and to that 2 tablespoons, you would feed it 2 tablespoons of flour and 1 tablespoon of water, or a little more water if you're doing your mini starter. But you can feed it these very tiny amounts so that what you pull off before you feed it the next time is so small that you don't worry about putting that spoonful of ingredients in the trash or feeding it to your chickens. So you can keep your starter down to a very small amount that is manageable. Then it's just your 5-minute feeding in the morning, your 5-minute feeding in the night, and then you can build it up when you know that you've got a day that you've got time to bake or deal with a larger amount of discard. So there's that. Oh, my sister, she feeds her mini starter in the morning and the evening. but she only pulls off a discard once a day. So she feeds her starter a half cup in the morning, a half cup in the evening, but she only pulls off a discard in the morning, and that's what she uses for whatever baking she does in the day. And so she's got about 1 cup or a little more of discard that she will use daily. So that keeps it more manageable than pulling off 2 cups, maybe 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. So you can do that. And then finally, you can, as time goes on, you can store it in the refrigerator. So that's what I tend to do. I tend to get mine out once a week and build it up and do all my baking in 1 or 2 days, and pull off a bit of my fresh starter, save that back as my mother for the next week, and put that in the refrigerator. I have 2 jars in the refrigerator that I keep all the time. I try to trade back and forth on which one I'm using so that they both stay fed and fresh. That way, on the days when I'm not baking, I don't have to worry about feeding it. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that, and that leads me to my next point that I want to talk to you about, and that is the weather. So I'm in Texas. Summer is coming on. It's supposed to be 100 degrees here tomorrow, which leads me to a hot kitchen. So that's one of the reasons that I started moving mine to the refrigerator. If your house stays cool all year around, pretty consistent, then you won't have to change the way you keep your sourdough starter. I have a lot of windows, and the sun tends to shine in, especially right here in the evening, late afternoon. The sun shines in, and this is my baking corner, so everything in this corner of the house really heats up in the evening. So I tend to move mine to the refrigerator so that I do not have to work so hard to feed it, because when it's hot, sourdough eats fast, and you might end up having to feed it more like at least 2 or maybe 3 times a day, just because it's going to get very sour in between. So watch it, just pay attention to what it's doing. If it rises all the way up and falls and you're seeing a collection of liquid at the top, it's run out of things to eat. That hooch at the top of your starter is kind of a byproduct of what's happening when your starter has eaten all it has to eat, and now then there's this byproduct that appears at the top of your starter. So I highly recommend, if that's the case, that maybe you feed it more often, or consider some kind of a cold storage. I have a friend that keeps jugs of ice in her freezer, and she will, in the daytime, she puts her starter in a little cooler chest in the cabinet, and it's a small cooler with her quart jar, and she pulls out one of those little cartons of ice, and she puts that in there with it, and that keeps it more than refrigerator temperature. It's higher than refrigerator temperature, but it's not as hot as room temperature, and it's still usable for her. So she just has this tiny little cooler with her quart jar and her little chunk of ice, and that is just rotated constantly, and that's how she keeps hers in her kitchen. So that may be an option for you. I'm just throwing out lots of ideas, and whatever might work for you maybe will catch on a little hook in your brain, and that might be the thing that makes this doable for you, because it's really all about finding your rhythm, and finding your rhythm in your kitchen, finding your rhythm with your sourdough, and making that a part of your life, a peaceful and ongoing part of your life, that's just something you do every day, and it'll be great when you can do that. Okay, you can. Another option for baking in the summertime, rising breads in the refrigerator. So if your kitchen is really hot and your breads are rising faster than what you would like for them to, they're not having time to maybe ferment as slow as you would like them to, you can always rise them for a short time at room temperature, move them to the refrigerator, and let them finish the rise there, and then bake them the next day. So that's an option, or you can move them to the refrigerator right away, pull them out, and let them kind of temper a little bit at room temperature before you bake them. So play with those options, because that might be good if you're actually baking and trying to work with the warmer temperatures. I think that's all I have. I have thoroughly enjoyed this little journey with you. I truly pray that your sourdough starter will be a blessing in your kitchen, that it will be a blessing to you as you find a little bit of a peaceful rhythm in making bread and keeping that starter going and putting really nutritious things on the table for your family. A long time ago, when everyone was saying, bread is bad, I kept thinking, in the Bible, Jesus is referred to as the bread of life. And he would not have been referred to as the bread of life if bread wasn't good for you. So bread is not bad. It just needs to be prepared properly. It needs to be prepared in such a way as to nourish your family, not with all kinds of additives, not with all kinds of stripped down ingredients, but with wholesome whole grains prepared with a slow rise in such a way that your family is not only fed good food, but fed nourishing food. If this has at all been helpful to you, please let me know. You can comment here, you can subscribe to my channel. I will continue to add videos for sourdough, as well as we do a lot of Instant Pot videos and yeast spread videos and some celebration item things, and those will continue to be a part of my channel here, and I would love to share those with you. Also, you can join me on social media at Facebook and Instagram, and the links to all of that are in the description box, and I would love to visit with you more. Thanks so much.